Are you excited about Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis? Or are you excited about Alex Volkanovski potentially defending his belt against Ilia Topuria? Hello, everybody, and welcome to Against the Fence, where, of course, this is the place to be if you love talking about the sport of mixed martial arts and the UFC. This is it. This is it. We're going to be talking about this past weekend, UFC 290. We're recapping the events from the main card. We're going to be looking ahead at that Israel Adesanya versus du Plessis fight. When's that going to happen? We'll yet to find out, of course. We're going to be talking about when Volkanovski is going to return next, and some of the post-fight chatter, which has taken place. Whether or not it should be Islam Makhachev or Ilia Topuria. We're going to talk about the Flyweight title picture and what's next for that. We've got some updated rankings from UFC.com. And we're going to be talking about much, much more to come as well. So stick around. We've got a jam-packed show for you guys, as always, here in the Aftermath Show. This is one of my favourite shows to do, and can't wait to hear your opinions. Yes, I see you guys in the chat. Yo, says Stephen. Yes, George Merry. Welcome back in, gents. How are we feeling? George, we caught up with you a little bit at the back end of, I think, of the watch-along, didn't we? What do you make of the fights? And, of course, it'd be interesting to see and to hear what you've got next for some of these main card guys. All right, lads, says Nolan. Yes, Nolan, good to see you back as always. Stephen says it was such a good fight night. I enjoyed watching it with all of you. My man, glad you enjoyed it, Stephen. Because, of course, with the watch along here at Against the Fence, we don't like you guys watching it alone. You know, we want you guys to feel like you're watching it with us, and that's what it's all about over here in a friendly community. All around. Yeah, Ollie Faithful Nolan. So there we go. We got some good chatter in already. Good stuff. Before I get into recapping the main card, we should probably mention a few names from the prelims, of course. It was good to see Alonzo Menafield get that win against Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute looked like he potentially may be retiring. He took his gloves off after the fight. Hopefully not, because he's still young and he's still got a lot to go, I think, in his mixed martial arts career. So fingers crossed that's not happened. And maybe it was just emotions got the better of him at the weekend. Tatsuro Taira, that guy's an animal. Quite surprised that he got the decision win, though. Of course, Cameron Simon as well, and another South African getting the TKO win in the first round. And of course, Robbie Lawler putting Nico Price out in a matter of seconds. Probably the best way to bow out as a mixed martial artist, really, getting the walk-off knockout in round number 1. And look, fingers crossed he stays retired. Fingers crossed that he stays in the sport. He continues coaching people. And I hope he's one of those fighters that you just hope doesn't go into bare knuckle boxing or anything like that. He's taken a lot of damage in his career, and yeah, it'd be good to see him help out the sport in other ways, in my opinion. Yes, George says great morning of fights. The Safa stole the show, and Alex Pantoja's dad comment was excellent. Man, yeah, that was kind of wild. I haven't really properly looked into that backstory really with his dad, but yeah, it was good stuff. Cameron Simon is a great prospect, so Stephen, absolutely, man. It'd be good to see him in future cards. Fingers crossed we can get him on a main card of a fight night perhaps next time out. Ash saying, yep, couldn't have asked for a better ending. Cameron is one to watch. He will fight Davy Grant next if he's successful in London. Ooh, George Murray throwing out the fights for future fights for the prelim guys. That's excellent stuff. Yeah, I think that's a fun one. I can see where you've kind of mixed up you got both guys a similar kind of height and reach as well. So that's gonna be quite intriguing. But yeah, good shout. I like your comments already. Nolan saying, yeah, perfect way for Robbie to bow out as well. Yeah, couldn't get any better than that for sure. And I guess we should probably roll on in then to the first fight on the main card. Let's recap the main card, of course. Bo Nickal defeating Val Woodburn via TKO in 38 seconds of round number 1. Surprise me. You know, I picked submission. I was confident he was going to get the submission win. But the knockout, I mean, he showed quickness. unbelievable quickness and hand speed for a middleweight. We're kind of starting to get Khamzat Chimaev vibes. Is he the next Khamzat Chimaev potentially? Listening to Anik and Florian podcast earlier on today on my way to work, Kenny Florian said that he reckons that Bo Nickal's striking is actually better than Khamzat. So I think it's a big call, and purely because of his footwork. So, that's the question really with Bo Nickal right now. Can he be a typical Khamzat type character and go all the way in such quick succession? We've got some good matchups for him, including one of them that I mentioned in the last Aftermath show. So I'll remind you guys of that. But, and Dana, during the post-fight interview, he compared him to Cain Velasquez because Cain came into the UFC. He was signed and he was like 3-0 or 4-0 back then. But he also said that he was no rush for him. So, of course, the UFC, Dana has learned from previous times out with hype trains. They didn't want to push him against these guys who have been around the game for quite some time. So, I've got two good matchups, which I think are fairly comfortable. One of them, I think, propels him up there quite a bit. But stylistically, I think makes a lot of sense. I wonder if you guys can remember from the last Aftermath show who that person might be. But first, I'll get some shouts before I mention those names. Steven says, are you going to talk about this Izzy nonsense? Cringe Lord. Yes, we're going to get into that because it's probably the main topic, really, to come out of this UFC 290. It's the beef between the two. I'm going to get into it in a little bit because there's actually a lot to dissect from it. But to be honest, preparing the show, there was a lot to include. So I will touch upon it in a little detail. Hopefully you guys can help me out with some of the details to follow up as well. We all assumed submission. Surely everyone thought that Bo was going to get a sub. Yeah, I mean, I predicted a rear naked choke. I think he was going to get Val down. I know Val's quite quick and he's quite muscly and bulky and he looks like quite a strong guy, but I was confident that Bo was going to get him down anyway. If you watched the BT review show, Nick Pete said it right. It didn't show much. The knockout was great, but Val definitely was nervous and tried being the hero and got clipped. Yeah, no, spot on there. That's a good assessment of it. I got to agree with you. It's UFC jitters, that the pressure was kind of on him, really. I mean, he put pressure on himself. This was your time to shine, to upset the apple cart and derail this hype train in a fight which you weren't expected to get. And especially it was on a main card as well. He opened the main card. But for Val, I think this is going to be a good learning curve for him. I think he's going to get back in there and fingers crossed. Again, I haven't really got a future matchup for him. I'm hoping that the UFC maybe put him back on the Contender Series and give him a fight there and really test him before signing him. I know it's kind of a little bit harsh because, yes, he did save their bacon a little bit and step up with short notice. So maybe he'd go back to the Contender Series or he will fight somebody coming off of the Contender Series. Fingers crossed. So I didn't, says Ash. Yes, so I did pick Val, shockingly enough. Steven says, I put a $5 on Val winning for the lols. I knew I'd never see that $5 again. I mean, I guess it's worth it, isn't it? I mean, it would make your day if he did shock the world, of course. Better luck maybe winning the lottery, perhaps. George says, I bet the UFC will pad Bo's career and give him an easy route to the rankings. Yeah, you can kind of see it. I mean, in a ways, you start to see it with Paddy Pimblett, but Paddy Pimblett coming into the UFC had a lot more experience than Bo Nickal in reality. Steven says Val also had nothing to lose in a way. He will get one more shot, I think. Yeah, I'd imagine so. Surely he's helped the UFC out big time in that fight. Nolan says back left his chin wide open every time. Bo faked the takedown. He noticed first time. Yeah, good spot there from Nolan. It's true. That's how he was able to catch him, but it was surprising how quick he was. Val versus Gore, as Bo will now be looking past them both, says George. Perhaps indeed. And I got some really good fights. Ash says, yeah, agree. They will keep hyping up Bo, giving him good matchups for his style and his bigger... and gets us bigger and more hyped, for sure. Okay, so I've got two matchups I'm going to The first one, I think, is a similar... Okay, he's had a few more fights more than Bo, but he's a bit of a... He's coming off of a win against Chris Leroy Duncan last month. He's on a 2-fight win streak. Both of those wins were by decision. But his last loss was against Kyle Borralho, who's a wrestler. So, this name is Armen Petrosyan, who's 8-2 as a professional. Armen Petrosyan versus Bo Nickal. I think that's a good fight. Petrosyan offers quite a lot on the feet. He's very good with his kicks to the body. But like I said, you know, Kyle Borralho was able to out-wrestle him and put him down. So for that reason, I think that's a good fight for Bo Nickal. I kind of like that fight stylistically. The second one I've got a little bit more experience. But there's a reason why I've got him in there. And it's Eryk Anders. Because if you remember the last Aftermath show last month, I did say it. I said the winner of, the loser of Eryk Anders and Marc-Andre Barriou should get the winner of Bo Nickal versus Tresean Gore. And the reason why I've got Eryk Anders in there is because he is quite a physical guy. His striking isn't the best. He does like to utilize the clinch quite a lot. He occasionally does get the takedowns. And I've noticed in his recent wins, he's kind of beaten the guys who aren't as physical. He's able to out physical, like the Kyle Daukases in the past. But look, he's had experience in the top of the division. You know, he fought Lyoto Machida back in the day, headlining events. Thiago Santos, to just name a few. But yeah, you know, he's lost against Andre Muniz, a jiu-jitsu guy, grappler. This Park Jong-young split decision loss was questionable. He kind of tired a little bit during that fight and allowed Jung Park to get back in the fight in rounds 2 and 3. He did beat Darren Stewart though, which is a good one, but in my opinion, I think Darren Stewart is... I think he's better suited at welterweight. However, that fight did take place at light heavyweight. He lost against Jotko, a long-rangey striker, but then he beat Jared Mershot, split decision. So, you know, a lot of his wins have been by decision. As Eryk Anders, he padded his record quite early on with knockouts and finishes. So, yeah, for that reason, that's why I'd give Bo Nickal Eryk Anders. You know, a win against Eryk Anders as well. I think then you're off to the races, and you'd probably be then touching people just outside of the middleweight rankings. So that's why I've got him in there. Stephen says, remember the guy who fought Sugar at last minute? Green hair guy, ended up being a punch bag. He had one more shot and he was cut. True. It's good comparison to make there for sure. Yeah, maybe that would probably happen to Val, perhaps. Bo versus Hamza in future for sure, says Nolan. Yeah, I reckon they could easily tee that up. For sure. Yeah, no, all for that one. That would be exciting. I think it would, you know, people will be talking about it, I think, for a long time until that happens. Chris G, he's Mexican, and I'm not so... his name isn't in my vocabulary. Are you on about Chris Gottsmacher, whatever his name is? Yeah, I know what you mean. I know who you're on about. That's a good fight. That's a good option, actually. Gritsmacher, isn't it? He was on The Ultimate Fighter. See, look at that. I'm pulling these out. Or was you on about Matinho? I think you're on about... Are you... He's Mexican. No, yeah. Oh, no, sorry. Okay, going back to... Yeah, no, you're on about the Sugar Sean's fight against... Chris Matinho. No, that's right. I thought you were on about future matchup for Bo Nickal. Yeah, Stephen agrees with me. Great matchup. I like Armen versus Bo. Ash agrees as well. Isn't he fighting Jared Mershot? Says George. I don't believe he is. No, I don't think he's booked. Personally, I would have thought so, because I would have probably have left him out. I think he maybe was scheduled at one point. No, he's not booked, because he just come off of the win against Chris Leroy Duncan. I mean, a fight against Andre Petrovsky would be good. I missed that one out there. I think stylistically would make fun, but I don't think the UFC will get them that fight, purely because it's two wrestlers, I think. Val will go the same way as Chris Matinho, says Stephen. Absolutely, hands down, agree with that. Nickal versus Beardew. Paul Craig, grappler, versus Matt Rat. Big up the Scottish is George Merry. Oh, surely not. You know, Paul Craig's moving down to middleweight, and I think he's way above it. I'm afraid. Be quite some time. Wales, yes, Wales. Good to see you in. Hope you're having a good day at work, my brother. Welcome in. We're talking about Bo Nickal's future matchups. I've got Eric Anders and Armin Petrosian for Val Woodburn. I think it'll be somebody off of Dana White's Contender Series. So let us know what you think. But yeah, I think Paul Craig versus Bo is a good future matchup down the line. It would be one that I could see Bo kind of winning in a way. But then it depends really. Paul Craig can finish anybody. But then if he gets paired up against a wrestler who could potentially nullify his jiu-jitsu, then, you know, maybe not. But I think, isn't Paul Craig fighting Andre Muniz? Am I right in saying that? I can't remember now. Yes, that's happening in UFC London next weekend. So, I mean, look, that's an exciting one. If he loses, I don't know what would be next for Paul Craig. Sticky times, of course. But yeah, that's all we've got going for that one, of course. We'll touch a bit more on the middleweight rankings in just a sec, because we've got another middleweight about to talk about. So we'll head on back then for now to talk about the second fight, which was on the main card. Oh yes, TFC IVM Amaze in the house. Yes, my man. Good to see you back in. Smash a like on the video. For T City in the house, guys. Tomo's in the house. Love that. I want him versus Pyfer, but doubt the UFC does it. Yeah, Pyfer's on a tear himself. He's a lot more experienced as well, so I'm quite intrigued to see who they give Pyfer next. He deserves somebody maybe just outside of the rankings. Steve says Bo has, in my opinion, one of the best teams behind him. Absolutely agree with that. Wales says just popped in to say what's up and smash the like button. See you lads Saturday. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you, Wales. Hopefully you can catch this aftermath show after you finish work, my man. Good to see you and thanks for popping in, of course. Back onto the second fight of the night, of course. Dan Hooker making it 2 fights in a row now. It's a 2-fight win streak, and he got the decision win against Jalin Turner. He looked really good in those second and third round. Jalin was a real problem on the feet for Hooker in that first round, but kind of slowed down due to the weight cut. And it makes us now think, should Jalin Turner be looking at welterweight for his next potential matchup? So I've got some options there for him. But look, got to give props to Dan Hooker. He's fought some of the best in the lightweight division. And you know what? Fun stat for you. He's fought twice as many guys in the lightweight division as Conor McGregor. You know, there you go, pulling that out there. But he always seems to beat guys that are just outside of the rankings. This guy was a guy in the rankings. Okay, he may have beaten Paul Felder, who was ranked at lightweight maybe at the time. Not sure about James Vick. Gilbert Burns may have been ranked at the time. But apart from that, you know, he's had some amazing performances against guys just outside of the rankings. But yeah, what is next for Dan Hooker is the ultimate question. I've got one match up for him, which we talked about during the watch along. I just think it's just a typical fight for him to take, even though he shouldn't take it. I think he should. But if we move on then to the rankings so that you can see there, he's moving in at number 10. Number 10. He's making some jumps, man. Back in there. I mean, look, props to him. But as you can see, he's just below Grant Dawson, and that is the fight that I would give him next. Unfortunately, you know, it's against the killer, another wrestler. But Dan Hooker has been known to be taking these fights in the past, and it kind of makes a lot of sense because when you look at that rankings, you're looking at. Would you give him Armour and Sarukian? Probably not. I'd like to see him fight Rafael Dos Anjos, but the problem is Dos Anjos is fighting at welterweight now, and I think he'll stay at welterweight. He's got a fight book against Vicente Luque. You look ahead of that, you've got another wrestler in Mateus Gamrot. You got Rafael Fiziev. I'd like to see Hooker versus Fiziev. I think that fight would make a lot of sense in some ways. Fiziev obviously is coming off of the loss against Justin Gaethje, but I think he's probably due to fight soon, and I reckon he might get Gamrot. Excuse me. I think Gamrot versus Fiziev makes a lot of sense. So, yeah. Steven says, Dan Hooker, absolute dog, and remains as my favourite fighter. Fought with a broken arm and jaw. Just a scratch, he said. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I saw the x-rays coming out afterwards. It's funny how he just said it was just a scratch on his jaw or whatever. Because that head kick, or that Turner landing, woo! It reminded us of how good Dan Hooker's jaw is, man. The fact he took that. But, you know, Hooker, I think, you know, he just needs to take some smarter fights. I think he's going to be out for a little while, which is why perhaps he could get maybe the winner or even loser of Fiziev versus Gamrot, if I'm honest. Yeah. Or maybe perhaps Grant Dawson might even leapfrog him in that time. Depends on how quick he's going to heal. I'm not sure if I haven't really looked into it enough. I've not been given any dates. So I'd imagine he's going to be out for a little while. So we'll have to hold our horses on that. George says Hooker versus Dawson. So there we go. George agrees with me on that one. Hooker looking like he's having fun again, says Nolan. And that's true, man. He definitely was stuck in the mud for a little while. He's finding his groove again. It's good. It is really good to see because look, any more losses, you got to then start to question things, right? And Stephen makes a really good point. He says Dan Hooker is the new Cowboy Cerrone. Won't be a lit title contender, but will be the most entertaining fighter to take anyone, anywhere, anytime. Absolutely. Top stuff there. And he also says Hooker versus Fiziev is stylistically a great banger. Yeah, it is. And I think Fiziev's power and probably his speed would cause Hooker some problems, if I'm honest. I could see Fiziev potentially TKOing, I'm afraid. I like Fiziev, man. I really want to see him do some good things, and I'm hoping he bounces back from that Gaethje loss, because a lot of guys tend to fight Justin Gaethje and not return the same. You've got to stop Gaethje. You know, it is what it is, so we'll have to see. Dan is always in war, says Ash. Fiziev versus Gamrot is scheduled for later this year, isn't it? It doesn't say it on the sheet here. I think it was rumoured once upon a time, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But yeah, only one option for Hooker I've got is Grant Dawson, or of course he waits out for Gamrot or Fiziev. As for Jalin Turner, then, you know, will we see him at 170 is the ultimate question. What do you guys reckon? Do you think he should make the jump up to 170, or do you think he should try one more time at lightweight? I would personally like to see him at 170, but I think it's going to be difficult. When I'm looking at these matchups potentially for him at 170, I don't like them. They make me cringe, but I've got one particular which I think would ease him into the division nicely, and that is Max Griffin. You know, recently lost against Michael Morales, isn't the most technically proficient of fighters. He's a little bit reckless, a little bit wild at times, and I think that plays into Jalin Turner's game a little bit, you know? So for that reason, that's who I've got him. I know at the weekend we kind of mentioned a Neil Magny, but Neil Magny is just one of those fighters where, like, he can beat anyone on any given day. It just depends on how he turns up and what he decides to do, you know, and where his mind's at. So I wouldn't like the Magny fight for Turner. I honestly, if I'm honest, I think Magny could very well smother him potentially. Maybe even submit him. I don't know. Has Turner missed weight before? Prior to this past weekend, I'm not actually sure. I don't think so. If I have a look here, it would tell me. No. Oh, actually, tell a lie. Maybe his couple of fights into the UFC he may have done, because it was at catchweight at 165, unless he jumped in at last minute. That was on the Watson versus Hill card. So, yeah, maybe. But, yeah, maybe give him one more shot then at lightweight, perhaps. I don't know. What do we reckon? Turner versus Buckley, says George Murray. Nah, mate. Buckley, I think, would dead him. I think Buckley would dead him. That's a real fight. Look, props to Buckley, man. He's really chasing after some good fights of 170. And I kind of hope he gets him. But seeing the clip with Ian Gary, look, I got to side with Ian Gary in that scenario. Like, why would he go down and fight Buckley? I think Buckley's going to have to take some better fights for him. Steven says, I think one weight miss is okay, and plausible. If it's repeatable, then he definitely needs to move up. Yeah, maybe give him one more chance then. If it's one more chance, then you're looking at lightweight. Maybe not Renato Moicano. I know it's a fun one stylistically, but I think Moicano is probably due to step back in there. Ismagulov would be a good one, but then that provides Ismagulov a chance to fight up. I kind of like maybe Matt Favola, but Favola's chasing the Paddy fight, so yeah. Yeah. Or even you could do Turner versus DeSantis if DeSantis loses to Luque. I don't know, but then who knows if DeSantis could retire after that fight, so who knows. But yeah, that's all we've got time for then on that fight, Hooker versus Turner. Smash a like on the video if you've not done so already, and if you like those potential future matchups. Turner versus Phil Rowe, says George Murray. Yeah, do you know what? I actually thought about that fight. I did consider it. There was a reason I didn't put it in the mix, but yeah, I like your thinking. I think Phil Rowe would be quite a difficult one. I don't think they've fought before. I mean, I don't think they've trained together before, but yeah, no, like it, George. On fire tonight is George Murray. Love the options we've got here. All right, taking us back then, let's talk about the third fight of the night, which is kind of a big one, right? It's kind of the main talking point of the evening, but we've got lots to talk about after that as well. You know, we're going to be talking about Volkanovski's next potential fight. Should it be Islam Makhachev, or will it be Islam Makhachev, or should it be Ilia Topuria? I know where my opinions lie on that, and I'm excited to hear yours as well. But as for Dricus du Plessis, he moves now to 20-2 as a professional with 8-fight win streak. To me, Whittaker struggled to kind of get settled into this fight because Dricus was kind of putting him under pressure and kind of used this awkward style to really fluster Whittaker. It's just weird. I was so confident that Whittaker was going to pull that win out, and it was my most confident pick of the night. But for some reason, Dricus du Plessis still manages to pull something through and get the upset. It's crazy. You know, it's hard to doubt him now. Can he go all the way, and can he actually dethrone Israel Adesanya? I mean, I don't know. I kind of want to say he can, because it's kind of weird, right? When I sit back and look at the middleweight division, everybody has kind of got their level of something about them is quite unique to their style, right? That stands out. Du Plessis just got this awkward pressure, and occasionally, well, I mean, in previous fights, gasses, but somehow digs deep, right? And it just, anyone he gets paired up with, you just think, well, he's going to lose. But he just seems to grind out these wins. But look, I got to give credit where credit's due. To go out and finish Robert Whittaker like that is amazing. Stand out. Bravo. Like, you can't knock him at all. They called me a madman, says Tom. Oh, hang on. I'm going to get that chat up in a sec. Did you actually predict Dricus? I'm intrigued to find out why. Steven says, we all know where this is going. DDP versus Izzy for sure. Whittaker versus Thompson again, I think. Ooh, really? No. Nah, we got better fight than that. Wonderboy starched him, and oh man, it's so good. So good. We speak in Africans, and I'm a real African champ, says George Murray. Yeah, we're going to get into that little bit of segment there that happened. DDP with 2 clear nostrils is a dangerous animal, says Stephen. It's true. That's true. You know, and it's the same thing goes for Justin Gaethje, really. He sorted his nose out recently and looked phenomenal against Fiziev. So, look, I mean, different animal. Can he go 5 rounds is a question as well. Against Izzy, somebody who's very good at distance management. Can he close that distance on Izzy? And really disrupt him and get takedowns? And can he do more with the takedowns than a Marvin Vettori did? I don't know, man. I really don't. I think Dricus's style plays into Izzy's hands so well that Izzy can get a knockout again in this fight. It can. But then at the same time, I thought that Rob was going to do exactly that, but he didn't. So, I don't know, man. Could it be a decision win for Dricus du Plessis? Could he get the upset against Izzy? Oh, wouldn't that be sour? Because surely he's not going to finish Izzy. Surely not, right? Come on, guys. Like, finishing Robert Whittaker is bad enough. Surely he's not going to then finish Izzy. Is he not the best middleweight of all time if he back-to-back finishes those two? Like, come on. I mean, it's true, right? Tom says, I predicted Dricus for months. Got ragged the whole time. Glad I got the last laugh. Well, props to you, Tom, man. You clearly saw something there. You clearly saw something that, was worth picking up on. Izzy took Rob to a decision. Dricus finished Rob. I know. MMA math, George. MMA math. And new. I know. Yeah. Can totally see it now. I think it could be destiny. Steven says, I might get no surgery and see if it gives me superpowers. Look, I mean, I'm with you on that. Let's just remove our septums. Do we even need them? Steve says, DDP will fluster Izzy with his complete lack of any style. I'm saying DDP for the win. But do you know what? That's an interesting point because intentionally, right, Kelvin Gastelum did that to Izzy. And which is why he was able to land on Izzy quite a lot. And, to this day, did the most damage on Izzy's face. Yes, Pereira finished Izzy against the cage. But Izzy's face after that Kelvin Gastelum fight, he looked like the Elephant Man. And it was because Kelvin knew that he needed to break his patterns up in order to land on Izzy. So look, maybe du Plessis is destined to become the middleweight champ. He will sub Izzy, says Tom, within 3 rounds. There's the prediction. It's going to happen. Tom's making it happen. Steven says, also, Izzy is so difficult to like now. He is. He's not making it easy for himself, is he? He really isn't. I mean, during the watch along, I was like, to be honest, I don't really like either of these guys. Dricus is quite cringe. I might actually side with Izzy. But then, having seen the post-fight back and forth with more volume in my ears and hearing what Dricus had to say in the post-fight interviews, I'm kind of sided with Dricus now. Because, yeah, Izzy is just that damn cringe. But, yeah, no, I like these predictions. Personally, I think Dricus, decision, or Izzy's going to get the knockout. That's where I'd go with that. But then let's talk about the altercation. Well, first of all, before we maybe perhaps do that, let's touch upon the rankings there. As you can see, number 1 now for Dricus du Plessis. Number 1 in the division. He moves up 4 spots. Rob moves down to 3 now. Alex Pereira still in the rankings, even though he's fighting a light heavyweight. Maybe he will get moved out of the rankings once he's had that Jan Blachowicz fight. Sean Strickland has moved up a notch for some random reason. I guess before I get into the Dricus and Izzy beef, maybe I'll touch upon one particular fight for Robert Whittaker next, which I think should be Sean Strickland, who's on a 2-fight win streak himself. He did reveal on Joe Rogan that he needed to fix his quadricep. He's had it injured for quite some time, and that's apparently due to why he's been fighting this kind of way that he does. Personally, I think that's an ideal fight night headliner. Who wouldn't say no to it? Whittaker's the perfect gatekeeper. The UFC want to utilize and bring in more contenders as much as possible. If Strickland beats Rob, Strickland's there. In my opinion, he is. Callum Johnson, welcome into the chat, my man. Good to see you in. Is this your first time in the channel? Hit that subscribe button if you've not done so already, and hit that like on the video. Can't wait to hear your opinions. But first of all, he says, DDP for the win. He's a savage. It took Izzy a lot to finish Till, Whittaker, and DDP manhandled both. True. There we go. MMA math. Callum's using MMA math to work this one out. And yeah, I think maybe perhaps a lot of people might go side with Dricus. Interesting. But yeah, back on the Robert Whittaker versus Sean Strickland fight. I think Strickland kind of plods forward. He's not very fast on his feet. If he doesn't fix his quad and goes in there, I can see Whittaker piecing him apart. for all 5 rounds. Staying on the outside, picking him here and there, and just landing the flusher shots, personally. But, having said that, he's got to kind of like find a way to land on Strickland, because not many people do. Like, he's really good defensively. So that's, I guess, a big question coming into that fight and be really intriguing. I'm all for it. Yes, Shango V's in the house as well. Yes, Shango. Hit that like button, buddy. Hiya, mate. Sorry I missed Saturday. Great card, though. Hey, no worries, buddy. Hopefully we can see you back in the watch along sometime soon. My man, miss your thoughts and opinions and miss watching the fights with you. Steven says, I hate how much this has turned into a race debate. It's nothing to do with race. DDP never said anything wrong. Izzy called him a cracker, though, which is racist. Yeah. Funny, isn't it? Funny who's getting pointed in what way. Steven says, Izzy grew up so rich and had servants. He trained in New Zealand and brings the belt back there. Or he's Chinese, depending on what video you watch. Yeah, let's get into that then, shall we? Let's get into that. But first of all, Steven says, Strickland versus Whittaker, great matchup. Yeah, makes sense. Because, look, Strickland, let's face it, Strickland versus Izzy, we want to see that at some point. And I think that fight ties in nicely. But let's get into the fight then of Izzy and Dricus then, shall we? We touched upon who potentially might win and how. Let's talk about the beef that they had in the octagon then, and where it kind of started. But it kind of started from when Dricus said in a post-fight interview with Dan Hardy a few fights ago that he wanted to be the first African-born champion. Now that kind of really pissed Izzy off, because Izzy moved to New Zealand from Nigeria at a young age, and he had a hard time fitting in when he was in New Zealand. So that's, I think, the reason why it's kind of struck a nerve with him a little bit. But, and that's kind of the reason why he said that he manifested Dricus's win in a way, is because, that fight fires him up. He clearly wants to put a beating on Dricus. But, and I think the term that Dricus used in that post-fight interview was a bit disrespectful, because he said it at a time when Izzy was a champion, Usman was a champion, and Ngannou was a champion. But in a way, but then in his post-fight interview, he said, I never said that Izzy wasn't African, which is true. But he did allude to it by saying that I want to be the first African-born champion. But then in this past interview that he had, he then kind of said that, but also added, I breathe the African air. I train in Africa. So, and he tries to get it up on Izzy on that. And it's like, why, man? Like, seriously? I mean, it's doing well because it's sparking the fight. We clearly want to see it because of this, right? It's doing a good job. But is it intentional or not? Is, I guess, a bit of a question. Now, one thing that I also found a little bit weird as well during the altercation that they had is, yeah, it was a little bit weird because they brought the champion into the octagon. Usually they bring the challenger once the champion has won. Weird how it was the other way around. But Izzy was calling Du Plessis the N-Word because he... And I when I started hearing it, I thought to myself, why is he doing this? Because we haven't seen Izzy do that in the past. He had beef with Paulo Costa. I don't recall him calling him the N-word. So why is he doing it with Dricus du Plessis? Probably maybe because he's from Africa, because the term did kind of originate from that area of the world. But my personal opinion is I think he was doing it because he wanted to antagonize du Plessis and get him to say it back. I think he was trying to test the waters a little bit there. And embarrass him live on air, perhaps. But also, it is a power move in a lot of ways. It's a way of him saying, you're my bitch. But there's definitely some kind of ancestral beef there, perhaps, as well. Going back generations in Africa. So, who knows? But one quote that stuck out for me, from the post-fight interview with Du Plessis. He says he's behaving like a clown in there. That's not how a champion behaves, which is true. That's not at all how a man behaves. He's behaving like a child. Conduct yourself like a champion. There's people looking up to you, and you're behaving like that. If that sells tickets, good for him. I'll sell tickets in my way. I'm a gentleman. I'm a man, and I'll behave like a man. What do you guys think of that quote there? Because, yeah, after he said that, I was kind of a little bit like, yeah, I got to kind of side with Dricus on that one. Because, like, yeah, why did you need to come into the octagon and just spout the N-word several million times? Like, really? Do you know what I mean? It's clearly, that's the thing. It's easy to get under Izzy's skin. We've seen that in the past. Steven says, it's like Leon Edwards isn't English. It's pure disrespect. Yeah, true. But then Leon does represent the Jamaican flag when he walks out, doesn't he? Sure he does, doesn't he? And he does have the Jamaican flag next to his name, right? Am I right in saying that? The word originated in America, says Steven. Actually, I thought it was over in Africa. Okay. I mean, interesting. I respected DDP with how he conducts himself, says Steven. Yeah. He did conduct himself in a way of being a champion, but I think he needed to, in a lot of ways, to try and make him look better than Izzy. Even though Izzy was kind of saying like, "Oh, look, we need to get a 36 and me done on you. Then we'll see where you're from." So and he was confident in saying, I originated from Nigeria and that. So yeah, I mean, look, I don't really like either guy. That's the thing. Just kind of stuck in the middle of this. But look, I'm pumped for the fight nonetheless. Nolan says, I think DDP handled the situation well. It was total provocation from Izzy. Callum Johnson says, if roles was reversed, DDP would have been banned from the UFC. So wrong. True. That's a good counter argument from Callum there. Yeah, I like your thinking there. It is true. I guess, can't really... Is he going to get burnt at some point in this? I'm intrigued to see what that fight week's going to be about. This might be the fight that we didn't know we wanted to see. Because we were all kind of looking forward to what Strickland would bring. But just imagine that. The only man who can say the N-word is Mike Perry. It's true. As much it is. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on this. Lovely stuff in the chats, guys. Don't forget to smack a like on the video if you've not done so already. George Murray says, if we are Africans, but I'm not your brother. Dricus has got some bottle. He has for sure. He has. I'm really intrigued to see what comes of fight week. I really am. Anyhow, but we should probably move on to the co-main event. Swiftly on to the flyweights. Pantoja picking up that decision win against Brandon Moreno. I must admit, his striking looked good in round 1. But then Moreno started to take over a little bit and get his time in round 2 and took over in that area. But it was the grappling of Pantoja that kind of stood out most during the whole fight. Round 1 I definitely scored it to Pantoja. Round 2, I scored it to Moreno. Round 3 was up in the air. I think it was a very difficult round. And it was the hardest one to score, without a doubt. But most of the judges gave round 3 to Pantoja. Round 4, potentially Moreno's. And round 5, definitely scored to Pantoja, majority of the time on the back. But the problem is, maybe some people felt that Moreno won. It was a super close fight. It wasn't a robbery. I don't think it was at all. But the problem is with the judging, though, and it's balancing out the effective striking and the effective grappling. What weighs the most in a round is the question. Is it the damage or is it the duration? Of course, I think the damage comes first, but if you do a piece of damage off of one shot, but then you get controlled for majority of the round, then should it side with the grappling? You know, I think they should be looked at quite even. Really, I think they really should, especially with the flyweights, and because and with Pantoja, he's so good and quick in the scrambles. He was working the whole time. Props to Jason Herzog though for allowing the grappling sequences to play a lot longer than some referees would do. So if you would have put a Herb Dean in there or a Dan Miragliotta, would we have seen a Brandon Moreno win? That's the question. That's the question. What do you guys reckon in the chat? Can't wait for your thoughts. Steven says, incredible fight. This fight woke me up. The scrambles on the floor were absolutely top tier. And it's true, you know, even Moreno had Pantoja's back at one point. And it was good to see. Such back and forth war. George says, do we count the tough fight apart of their UFC trilogy? I think people will, but technically in the record books, it doesn't. So, but even still, you know, Pantoja's 2-0 up. Do we see a third fight? After that fight, because it was so close, I still would say I'd want to see a third fight, you know, personally. I think it will happen eventually. One day, not next, though. Nolan says, we have a problem in west of Scotland due to religion, so I ain't getting involved in race. Fair play, Nolan. Fair play. Don't blame you, my man. I tend not to either. Steven says, do we run the fight back or do we move the division on? As a Moreno fan, I'd like to see him get another chance, but my head says move on. Yeah, I'm sitting in the same boat as you, Steven. Honestly, I would like to see another fight before we see that run back. Purely because I think we've been so used to seeing Moreno in rematches recently. You know, the Figgy fights were a bit long drawn. It was great to see him fight Kai France. He looked amazing against Kai France. But, you know, I want to see him against more guys. I really do. And I think we need, you know, more filtering out in that top half of the division. Steven says, great comment about the reffing on this fight. Yeah, thank you, my man. Thank you. It is true, though. It's very true. You can't put Moreno in another quadrilogy, says George Mary. No, you can't. But I think that might just come down to how good Moreno is, really. You know, and how close he is in these fights. And it's just flyweights. So they're rapid. The exchanges come a lot quicker, and it's the reason why these fights just look so close, don't they, when we watch them. But as we look into then the rankings, not much has changed, of course. Moreno now goes into that top spot. Figueiredo moves into second, even though Figueiredo is going to get that move to bantamweight. He might fight Dominic Cruz. That's what's been rumoured. But what's next in for Pantoja? Personally, as we said at the weekend, Pantoja versus Albazi, I think makes a lot of sense. However, now the reason why that makes a lot more sense is because Albazi is ranked higher. Yeah, okay. But not only that is, Albazi's ranked higher, but not only that, he's on much larger win streak, which is 6. But on the other hand, you could argue that Brandon Royval is a more exciting fighter, who's on a 3-fight win streak, ranked just below him. And Royval versus Pantoja, did that fight already play out though? I think it did, didn't it? Didn't Pantoja beat him? I still think is an entertaining. Yeah, Pantoja beat him, but it wasn't that long ago either. It was 2021, rear naked choke. But I think that that fight, that finish, did he get injured? No, it was against Moreno who got injured in that fight. Yeah, so maybe perhaps it wouldn't be Brandon Royval, but Brandon Royval's still knocking on the door. We can't ignore him. But yeah, I think Albazi's next in line. And I think that's it. Matt W's in the house. Yes, Matt W. Good to see you in the chat. Smash the like video on the video and hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. If you're just joining us for the very first time, welcome on in. I can't remember who we met before, but hello, I'm JK. He says, thoughts on Norma Dumont and where she goes after a win this weekend? I mean, good question. Okay, we're talking about the post UFC 290, but I guess my little thoughts on that is Bantamweight, really? I mean, I know she's scheduled to fight at featherweight, but the featherweight division is no longer there. They put it in place for Amanda Nunes. I think she's got to make the cut to bantamweight. It is what it is, but hopefully she gets the win. She's an exciting fighter. Fingers crossed. We'll see this weekend. Of course, we'll be doing a watch along this weekend for the card. So yeah, fingers crossed we've got to watch that together. Steven says Moreno has credible management though, who can definitely pull a rematch. I see what you do there. I know what you're doing. Yes, Tuto! Tuto's in the house, and massive salutes and respects to Big Boss JK. Greetings from our entire rugby club in Italy. Great show as always, mate. Thanks, Tuto. It's good to see you in on a weekday. Of course, we spoke a little bit at the weekend during the watch long. Hopefully we can catch up a bit more on the next watch along, of course, and of course stick around because we've got lots to talk about. Still lots to come in this aftermath show. George Murray says Pantoja versus your boy Makhachev. Whoa, Makhachev. Whoa, he came from Dagestan. He's gonna shag your gran. Makhachev. Yeah, I would love to see it. I would, but and look, I would even like to see Makhachev fight Pantoja, not Pantoja, Moreno even. But I think it's too much of a big jump, and I think he will get someone coming off of a loss next. Who knows? But I'll get into that in just a sec. Excellent thought though. Excellent thought. Steven says flyweight is such a weird division. The difference between the top and the bottom of the top 10 is so different. And it's true because a lot of those guys are coming off of losses. You know, Coco France coming off a loss, Nickal coming off a loss, Alex Perez, Matt Schnell, Sumadaji. Manel Karp's going to get the crack at Coco France. That's going to be an exciting fight. That's in a couple of months' time. That's in September, I believe. Makhachev with the rubber knees. Yeah, man. I can't wait to see Makhachev go again. Hi, all the usuals. Sorry, it's not been on in a bit. So, no worries, Shango. It's good to see you, man. It's good to see you. Hopefully we'll see more of you in the near future, of course, and on a regular basis. Matt W says, looking forward to the watch long. Then she's on the main card as well. Yes, we'll be breaking that down for you guys as well. Lots of fights, 6 fights this weekend as well. Yeah, so Pantoja versus Albazi makes a lot of sense. Albazi hits quite hard. It's going to be interesting to see if he can put the damage on Pantoja. Personally, I think Pantoja can maybe get the sub in that fight. That's my opinion, but I don't know. I'd like to see him. Again, we've been saying this before. Pantoja is an absolute animal in this division, and to see him get the belt, I think was really good. You know, even though I picked Moreno to win, I kind of wanted Moreno to. I felt that Moreno's striking was going to be on point, and maybe perhaps was able to surpass Pantoja. We did kind of see it in a lot of ways. Tuto says, JK, with God's blessing, I'll be activated in a few weeks and you'll see me on pitch. Please pray for our victims in a few weeks. Smash them all. Man, love that, Tuto. Love that. Looking forward to hearing how well your rugby team does in the season. But yeah, as for Brandon Moreno, though, I've noticed in the last 2 years, he likes to fight in January and July. So maybe perhaps we'll get to see him January 2024. If there is going to be a fight, it could be the rematch against Brandon Royval. However, Moreno did beat him before. I think that was in 2020 or 2019. And Royval did injure his shoulder during that fight, and then Moreno was able to finish him. So, you know, if it's not going to be that, maybe perhaps it'll be somebody coming off of a win. It could be the winner of... If Manel Karp wins, then I guess you do Karp versus Moreno. Because we don't want to see Coco France versus Moreno again. If not, then I think 6, 7, 8, and 10, 11 will all play out and fight each other. And it'll be a winner of one of those. Maybe Nickal versus Perez might happen. And then I think the winner of that will probably fight Moreno. That's my take on that. What do you guys reckon? Give Shango some love. That's it, guys. Love this community spirit. There's not a lot of movement in the top of the flyweights. It's difficult to match them both up. And it's true, Stephen. It is true. Like looking at the division, as you can see there, it's difficult to throw a name out for Brandon Moreno next. But I think January is enough time. Hopefully, we can get some more matchups being made. But Kart versus Kaya France and Ulanbekov versus Jake Hadley are the only fights being made at the moment in the rankings. Although I think the Hadley versus Ulanbekov fight may have pulled through, which came out I think either today or yesterday. Matt W says, I had the fight 4-1 Pantoja and he was minus 50 during the start of round 5. Moreno was the biggest start on the card, so I get why the audience booed. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. But look, I must admit, like after that fight, I did feel like perhaps Pantoja would win. I couldn't score the third round at all, but I did have that feeling that Pantoja had got the win. And even though I picked Moreno. All good, thanks to Shango. Hope you're all well too. Yeah, lovely, love the spirit. But yeah, that's all we got on the flyweights. For now, Pantoja versus Albazi is next. It'll probably be a co-main event, and maybe Moreno Royval 2, or we'll see. All right. Then, moving on then to the main event, of course. Were you surprised? I wasn't surprised at all. Volkanovski dominated Yair in there. He really did. I was hoping that perhaps Yair's kicks would cause Volk some issues, or enough issues for Volk to be a little bit hesitant to engage, but we didn't see that at all. We knew he was going to disrupt the rhythm by clinching and mixing into his wrestling on Yair, and he did exactly that. As Ash alluded to in the watch-along, we saw how to beat Yair with Frankie Edgar. And yes, I've mentioned it. There you go. Give me a round of applause for mentioning it in the Aftermath show. But yeah, he did exactly that. But, you know, there was a headbutt in the exchanges, which was a little bit unfortunate, but Yair was okay to continue. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. Should he have been given perhaps maybe a little more time to recover? Do you reckon it hindered his performance a little bit, and that's the reason why Volkanovski was able to get the finish on him? I don't know. I don't know. Volk is a machine, says Nolan. I don't see anyone stopping Volk at the moment with that performance he put on. Yeah, me too. Well, yeah. I mean, look, the Topuria fight, I'm really intrigued and really excited about, and I've been excited about it for quite some time because of what Topuria possesses. But what's funny, Topuria's got that knockout power at featherweight, which not many people do have. If I go into the rankings there, so you guys can look at the names. Of course, yeah, Emmett's got knockout power. Kelvin's got some power to him. Other than that, that's probably about it. Rodríguez has got kicking power, of course. But yeah, in terms of punching power, Topuria is probably one of the most dangerous guys there. But the thing is, what we learned about Volkanovski is, especially when he took that, I think that left hand from Rodríguez, is that it's going to take a heck of a lot to knock out Volkanovski. It really is. But is Topuria the man to get that done? Is the question. Mr. 10-7 himself. I think we're calling him 10-7 because of that round against Josh Emmett. But, he does hit harder than anyone in the featherweight division, in my opinion. But the question is he a better boxer than Max Holloway? Because his boxing looked amazing against Josh Emmett. It's always improving. He's a lot younger. Is he a better boxer than Max Holloway? Holloway's a good volume boxer. Topuria could put your lights out. What do you guys reckon? Steven says, I don't think the headbutt played into this at all. Unfortunate, but I don't think it mattered. Okay, it has to be Topuria next though. Yeah, look, I'm like I said the weekend, that fight really doesn't get my dick hard. It does, because Topuria is on an absolute tear right now, and I think he's got good counter wrestling as well. But the question is he going to be strong enough to deal with Volk? Both of them are the same height as well, which is interesting, right? So is Topuria going to be able to stuff the takedowns? That's the question for that fight. Lots to answer. But yeah, undefeated as well. It makes sense. That's the next fight to make. Steven says Volk took some headbutts. 2 head kicks blocked by one hand in a 4-ounce gloves. Doesn't block much. Trust me on that. True, my man. Yeah. And still kept coming forward as well. It's quite surprising. But yeah. So we'll get into some bit more in a little bit later on, because Makhachev kind of piped up on Twitter. We're going to be talking about what Joe Lopez, Volkanovski's coach, said prior to the post-fight in terms of Volk's injury and when he's going to be back. So we're going to be able to play a bit more of a matchup there. But at featherweight, it's got to be Topuria. As for Yair Rodríguez, though, I think what's next to him is got to be Movsar Evelev. Sorry. Throw him against the wrestler, JK. Go on then. Like, it's not ideal. I know it's probably not a fight that Yair would want to take, because I think Yair is quite stubborn with his matchups. We've seen that in the past. But yeah, I just think that's probably the only real option for him, unless you give him someone like an Arnold Allen. Then it gives Arnold Allen the opportunity to... Actually, maybe not, because Max is above him. So yeah, maybe Yair versus Arnold Allen could be the next potential fight. I like that. Good test, I think, for Arnold Allen. But yeah, other than that, Yair's fought most of the guys. I would like to see him rematch Brian Ortega, because that fight ended in a funky way, but I think it's too soon. If you're going to put it on, you put it up probably third on a pay-per-view card. But yeah, Yair, other than that, he's beaten everyone. Or he's fought everyone, near enough. Has he fought Cater? So a lot of guys needed to... I mean, look, I would love to see Giga Chikadze against Yair Rodríguez. I think that fight is fire. But Giga needs to win. He needs to get back in there. He's not fought in a minute. So maybe perhaps Giga gets a fight booked soon. Fingers crossed. You know, it's difficult though. I don't know who's going to fight. George says, if Volk goes up to lightweight in October for Abu Dhabi, Ilya versus Allen for interim, because Ortega needs a few wins to come back. Max is booked. He just fought Yair, and Emmett needs 2 wins to be back. Yeah, no, I like your thinking there, George. The problem is with Ilya versus Allen, I guess you're true. Then you're preventing a contender, really, aren't you? I mean, it would look good for Arnold if he was to beat Topuria, and then it would make us realise that Topuria just wasn't really ready, or is maybe perhaps not somebody who can push for top 5. But at the same time, if what would be next for Allen if he was to beat Topuria? Because then you can't fight Max. Then I guess you are looking at Ortega again. Like, yeah, Ortega or Rodríguez. Yeah, a bit of a weird scenario, that one. Yair needs to be more active. He's not fought much recently. That's true, Stephen. Dylan Danis tweeted that McGregor is the best featherweight of all time. Could he climb any further up that man's butt? I mean, look, it's true. Yeah, I'm sick of Dylan Danis. I think giving him attention is just... Nah, mate. But yeah, I got Movsar Evelev, who's obviously ranked in at number 10 there, as you can see. But he kind of flies under the radar at featherweight because he's been decisioning guys. But yeah, other than that, Yair's fought some of them. Allen versus Ortega, maybe. Yeah, I like that fight. I do. But we don't know when Ortega's going to be due back. We could see it. No, I like that one. It's true. All right, but yeah, that's what I've got then for the main event. We're going to talk a bit more about Volkanovski in just a sec. We'll talk about what's been floating around social media, what's been floating around in the news then. So first up, I've got, which is an interesting stat actually. We had 4 knockouts within the first minute of the fight at UFC 290, which I believe marks a kind of a bit of a record. And it makes UFC 290 an unforgettable event. Robbie Lawler, 38 seconds, you can see there. Bo Nickal, 38 seconds. Dennis Gomez, 20 seconds. And Jesus Aguilar, 17 seconds. So, look, props to whoever found that stat out and realised it. I mean, we had a lot of finishes. It was a great card. But, yeah, thought I'd throw that one out there for you guys. Some more chats we'll get in terms of matchups in just a sec. But, yeah, next up we got something else which was quite interesting. Alexandre Pantoja was working at Uber Eats 2 fights ago. Man, what does that say? What does that say about fighter pay? I know, it's another dig, it's another excuse to bring up fighter pay. And yeah, look, these guys do deserve to be paid a lot more. I'm all for it, but we need more eyeballs on the sport. We need more fans of the sport. We need people who are educated like you guys in the chat to become more passionate about it. And that's the reason kind of why we created this channel, because we want to increase you guys' level of passion and give you a platform to talk about your own opinions, of course. But yeah, and it's funny how it took Pantoja a 50k bonus to quit his Uber Eats job. But look, this is the flyweight fights for you, really, isn't it? I mean, they're not really headliners. That's the issue, isn't it? Which sucks. It really does, because they're entertaining to watch. I watched the entire 6 hours, and there's a stat that UFC 290 had only 1 hour of actual fight time. What? Okay, that's crazy. That's crazy. But then moving swiftly on then to another thing, which is Islam calls for a fight with Leon Edwards, which is intriguing, and it's a smart move from Islam. It really is, because as you can see, it says Oliveira's won't be ready to fight in October. He wants to fight November, December time, which that came out during International Fight Week. Question is will Islam wait out till then to fight? I know he's probably pretty adamant of being on that Abu Dhabi card. The UFC have looked at it. But the reason why he's thrown out Leon Edwards is because Leon Edwards has been rumoured to fight Colby on that Abu Dhabi card. And the reason for that is clearly because Islam doesn't have an opponent for Abu Dhabi in October. And they clearly want to do the Oliveira rematch. And they will probably do that fight. Be interested to see if they do it in Brazil in November. But I think they will try and push Islam back. I really do. But look, it's smart of Islam to throw it out there, the fight against Leon. But I can't see the UFC wanting to make it. I really can't. As you see there, Volk needs surgery. Gaethje / Poirier will most likely be medically suspended for a while. So yeah, I mean, like, I can't see there could be an early finish, but I mean that's what you're banking on, really, an early finish from either of those guys to slot in there. Steven says fighter pay, 100% agree. UFC has grown so much in even the last 10 years. UFC profits are huge. Stop slap fighting and invest back into the fight. Yeah, I'm all for that. Slap fighting needs to end ASAP. Nolan says, sadly, as you said, it's down to market value, but all fighters should be paid more. Yeah, it is what it is. Steven says, at what weight class will Edwards versus Islam be, though? At welterweight. That's what Islam's running for, a second belt, isn't he, at welterweight, clearly. I mean, he struggles to make 155. So we'll get Islam at welterweight at some point, I believe. But, yeah, I don't know. If the BMF fight ends quick and the winner isn't hurt, they'll do the winner versus Islam if Volk doesn't go for round 2. Yeah, but then I guess what would you give Oliveira, though, if Oliveira wants to return in November, December? Interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure there's options. We probably spoke them in the last Aftermath show, to be fair. But yeah, amazing stuff, amazing, good points there. Moving swiftly on again then to this one, quite a lot. Should Volkanovski be considered the pound for pound number 1 guy? When you look at it there, he's up there. He's a featherweight champ. He's smashing records, most title fight wins in the featherweight history, just under Jose Aldo, 2 away from matching his record. And look, just kind of beats people with ease at featherweight. It's possible. I think he is the greatest featherweight of all time now, perhaps. But Jose Aldo, who I love a lot, did go on that massive win streak of, and maybe Volk is a few fights away from being considered the greatest featherweight of all time. So I don't know. So work as always, JK. Catch you guys at the weekend. Yes, Nolan, good to see you, my man. Catch you this weekend. Thanks for popping by. And of course, don't forget to share the video and like and all that. George Murray says those IV drop for Islam. Oh, apparently that was legal. Apparently he was allowed to do it. Yeah, interesting. Jose Aldo has done more in my opinion, but it is close. It is close, Stephen, absolutely. And yeah, it makes you wonder what would have happened if Volk did get that win against Islam. In my opinion, if Volk got the win against Islam, Volk would be pound for pound number 1 at the moment. I think Jones is there because he did beat Thurgogan for the heavyweight belt, in my opinion. Steven says DC said that Holloway is above Volk in pound for pound, which is utter crazy. I don't know what DC's smoking. But yeah, that's a weird one. But another quote from Dana White then in the post-fight press conference. He says, this guy has literally proven himself 1,000,000 times. Whatever he wants to do, we'll probably roll with it. So he's got that power now as Volk. He's going to want that Islam rematch. He really is. But the question is he going to be ready in time? Which leaves us on to the other point here, which is... I'm going to go into what Joe Lopez said in a post-fight interview. This is a quote from Volk, which I'll read now. It says, I didn't mean to scare anyone with that. When I say I'm going to do it, it's not a big deal. I'll be back ASAP. It will be a quick one. Just need to get something sorted, but I'll be training. Man, I broke my hand last International Fight Week, and you saw me at Abu Dhabi ready to fight Islam or Charles Oliveira. That was a broken bone. This ain't a broken bone. You don't need to stress about that. I'll be back there before most of the other champions anyway. So Volk's feeling pretty confident about jumping in there for that Islam rematch perhaps, but I think his coach says otherwise. His coach said that it will take 6 to 8 weeks for Volk to recover from elbow surgery. UFC 294, which could be headlined by Islam Makhachev, is around 15 weeks away. You do the math. Is that enough time for training camp against Islam if you want to best Islam and make it a bit more of a clear decision? It's not, is it? I didn't think it'd be wise for Volk to do it. I really do. So I think Volk should sit and wait, personally. See how that goes. But Volk did say that he's open to the rematch with Makhachev. He's open to the fight with Topuria, or even a fight with Sterling should Sterling decide to move up before the end of the year. Can't see it. Maybe Sterling moves up next year. Sterling versus Volk would be amazing if Volk keeps winning at featherweight. If Volk fights Topuria, I'd imagine Volk would fight Topuria in February, maybe time again, January, February. And if he beats Topuria, then the fight Sterling, champ versus champ, makes a lot of sense. I think it'll be interesting, but I think it's a winnable fight for Volk. Steven says John Jones is too hard to like too. He's just not a nice human being. It's hard to get that out of my head. Wow, okay. So strong opinions from Steven there on Bones Jones, and yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from there. Boom. Hello everyone, it's Canadian Bacon. Yes, T's in the house. Smash that like button, brother. Good to see you as always. We're going to be wrapping this show up, but make sure you give it a rewind and watch it from the start when you can at the most convenient time. Steven says Volk is a good champion, fights regularly, conducts himself well and professionally, good role model for young people to look up to as well. It doesn't trash talk much, etc. Gotta love Volk. Yeah, it's true, man. You gotta like to him over more so. And what's been interesting is I'm sure there's a lot of Holloway fans now who are Volk fans. You know, because it's just like he's just undeniable. He really is. But yeah, I'm all on board for that. All right, that's a wrap, guys. You guys have been amazing in the chats as always. You've kept me going. I'm going to lose my voice at some point, so I've got to take us back because, you know, we're nearly there. We're nearly losing that voice, and look, it's getting late over here in the UK. But look, like I said, you guys have been absolutely amazing. If you've not done so already, make sure you hit that like button on the video. And if you've joined us late, make sure you go back and recap some of your thoughts. And it'd be good to get your comments in the comment section as well after the live show. But make sure you join in this weekend. Well, actually, but first off, we've got Ash will be joining us for a tough show tomorrow night. The Ultimate Fighter is back for another episode. So make sure you watch the episode and join Ash tomorrow night. He will be 8 p.m. over here in the UK. Forgotten the US times. Much apologise. But make sure you've got the bell rung, the alerts enabled on our channel so then you know when we're live anyway. And keep a lookout on the social media pages as well. This weekend, we've got a watch-along, 6 fights, main card, of course. We've got Holly Holm returns, the former champion against Moreno Bueno Silva. Can Bueno Silva solidify herself as a potential contender? It's the first fight on the Women's Grand Prix, which I named and done on the last Aftermath show. I know it didn't really go into fruition. I was hopeful, but look, I'm going to call it that anyway. But yes, thanks you guys for tuning in as always. Your comments are much love. I love the comments. You guys have been amazing. Canadian Bacon, I agree with your comments about Volk, Stephen, and also I am good, bro. I hope everything is good in the end. Much love, everyone here, so Stephen. Yes, much love to all of you guys. George Murray saying, good night, JK. God bless and great listen. I'll be back on the weekend. Good to see you back on the weekend, George. Looking forward to the fights as always. Don't watch alone, watch along. And we'll see you guys very soon. Stay care. Good night. Have a good week. Ciao, ciao.